towards the end of my project and I retrofitted my sump pump. I'm testing it right now. And the problem is you want to get the biggest pump you can. It doesn't fit in the spot very easily, and that's where you're going to have a lot of the trouble. To go over my retrofit project that I retrofitted the pump. There's an electrical portion to this. Heavy duty iron body. So this is a pump replacement on a Zoeller 9.1 amp, 3 horsepower, 115 volt PH9. What happens is every so many years you have to replace these, and I'm just filming a pretty successful installation, I think. And the problem that I have is the drain box isn't very big, so it's really hard to get a pump to fit in there. You have a check valve here that comes out and then goes, and then that protects basically the water flowing backwards. I used to have all kinds of trouble with the float switches on these things, but I got one of these electronics level guard float switches. These are really good. It's just been flawless. You know, you got the pump in there, right? You just fit the pump in and then you can't get a hose in there. So I had to basically jury rig one of these hoses. So they recommend getting a new check valve. There's only so much headroom in this drain box, and it's just gonna be a nightmare. I got this one on Amazon. I was very particular about how much room I had, so I had to go vertical on this check valve. I had to have a small pump and then bail out the drain box before I went and worked on it. What happens is when you pull the check valve off, if you have a lot of water in the pipe, then everything backs back up into your system. So you have to be ready with a pump because that check valve could be holding back many gallons of water. And you guys with basements and stuff, it's not going to be good. Pump wire, my old pump wiring is good. This stuff looks like it'll last forever. I'm gonna just try to mate the wiring, use the old wiring and put it into the new pump. Alternatively, I'm gonna just put some marine grade shrink on here and do probably a splice. So hopefully, if you don't have it marked, it's probably good that you do that and kill the power to this is the sub that I'm running from the house, but I pretty much am killing that sump pump circuit, which was a 20 amp circuit. So I pulled the cover off of it, and it looks like there's some strain relief here. Box is kind of tight. It was super tight, I remember. So what I think I'm gonna do is use some marine shrink and voltmeter on AC, the AC scale. You should see AC. Have your voltmeter set to AC right there, see? And you should be getting 0 volts. But just in case you screwed up and you didn't set your meter right, just go ahead and turn on the sump pump breaker. Turn it on again. And wow, check that out. It didn't get, I'm not reading voltage. Oh, you know why? Because of that switch is clearing the voltage. So that's not a, it's if this switch is if your float switch is in the, unconnected state, which that's what mine is, you're not gonna get voltage to the pump line. But of course, if you fool around with this, which is where, so the switch basically gets wired through here. Of course, it would be hot right here, but over on the pump side, I'm reading nothing. And then, so if you were to fool around with the float switch, it would be bad. So you kill that off, and then there's not going to be a problem for you. So every angle is important on this thing. So what you're gonna have to do is line up your both pumps together, so you can figure out, not make any mistakes, right? Because the angles are super important. Some of those hoses kink and stuff. It's not good. So make sure that everything, you just kind of put pumps side by side and just assemble them side by side. Make sure everything is the same, because it's so tight in that drain box. You'll have trouble. Here's the side by side. I think there could be some corrosion here with this connection. I'm not gonna fool with it. So best just take a picture at this point of everything side by side, just so in case you forget what the setup is. So here's the inner workings of the sump pump that I took out. So they're just this plastic. It's always something. So it looks like the check valve I got isn't the same check valve. I'm not sure how that happened, but it is a low profile. And the check valve is, which I like, it's kind of lower here, but I just have to make sure that I did get the right height. I get the right height on this side to clear everything. And I'm just gonna kind of see how it's gonna work out, because it can't work exactly the way I had it before, because I don't have the same check valve. But I do like, this is a better lower profile one, because look at, what I had to do was, I had to make a kind of custom make a fitting. And that's kind of what I did here too. I had to glue on this fitting here. So anyway, I'm gonna see what happens. But this is an important step, obviously, to duplicate, you know, the angles, the hose angles. Strip off the sheath on both sides, and then I'm gonna expose these wires and strip those. Use a stripper, something like this, to strip all the ends of this wire. You're gonna need these blue heat shrink, heat shrink wires. They're the butt connectors. Only get the adhesive lined heat shrink. Don't do the automotive heat shrink, it'll be bad. So you can only use these in the highest quality. And then we also have one of these crimpers. If you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to buy the right electrical stuff, because it's wet and it's gonna be a problem. Your house will flood. So take extra care to make sure these crimps are watertight. Here I'm crimping this connector. I'm gonna crimp all of them. So this wire it's in pretty good shape. The sleeving is in really good shape. Anti-corrosion grease. I'm gonna put that on the connections just for the heck of it, because it's kind of the old wire. So then the plan is to use this shrink tubing. So this stuff here is also adhesive lined. So I'm gonna basically hook up these heat shrink connectors to this side, and then I gotta slide this sleeve on here so I can then heat shrink this. So the whole thing will be heat shrinked. We give these a good pull after we crimp them. Give them a good pull, and then we're gonna heat shrink this unit, and then we're gonna put this sleeve on it. So the secret here is make sure that it gets nice and hot on all your connections. The adhesive needs to flow at the end, and this thing should just stick. The adhesive should just stick to the cable, and that's what makes it super watertight. And if you don't heat it enough, you're gonna have problems. So a while ago, like 10 years ago, I put this stuff on, and it's kind of coming apart on this fitting. These are watertight fittings, but I don't think they're that watertight. So I'm going to reapply this to all the seal areas, and hopefully it'll gonna last another 10 years. It's probably been 12 years since I did this last. Okay, breaker on. It doesn't seem like it. I don't know if it's gonna work that well. Thing, you know, this right angle on the original pump worked out way better, because this thing kind of, it's kinky. So this is my final part of the design. I was struggling with this part of it, actually. I think the best way to go is if you can get these plumbing fittings here that clamp onto the pipe so you don't have to glue anything, and they just kind of come apart. It's just going to be easy for you to pull the pump. And so right there you see I did the same kind of fitting right above the check valve. So for your reference, here's a check valve right here. This is coming from the street. This is where the pump water's going. And if you can use these flexible collar fittings, they bend a little bit. So if you got to ooch the pump in, you can do it. And then I also have another, it's a reducer version of this, where I just put in a hose fitting type 90. So you gotta have headroom, and then, you know, so you do kind of want to have flexible things. So if you need headroom, you can just like push down on it, and it's not going to be, you know, rigid and break. This causes the I don't know if you can see it, but this light is lit right now. When you move the switch back and forth, it causes the connection to go back on and off. So this float, it rises up and then causes the switch to go down. So, and then you can set the float to different levels here. How you can set the length of the downstroke. And then it's got this bracket right here that you're gonna mount. And I'm just gonna mount mine inside a sump pump box. And I'm replacing my old level guard switch, and that's the replacement for my level guard switch. So here's the finished product. I used a silicone hose to bridge the gap between the output underneath the driveway and the sump pump. And then here's the latest thing that I rigged, was that float, the vertical float I showed you before. And so what I'm using are these kind of flexible fittings. So it's a lot easier to just flex them around if you're in a really tight spot. And then I just married the old, I had to cut the cable for this thing. I've just got two wires here, black and the white. The white is gonna run the pump, so the switch just makes the connection between those two. Black is this one, right, the small lug, and then that corresponds with this. Also this is the white. So this is the input, this is the output, and then the switch gets made. Black and the white come together with that vertical float pump that I rigged.